Hey everyone, Rob from the ProWresBlog here, doing a review. This time we have USWA Memphis TV from January 2nd, 1993. To see my full review with pictures and gifs, check out www.ProWresBlog.blogspot.com. This show was joined in progress, unfortunately, and probably about 30 minutes or so were clips, so who knows how much I missed. A shame, but it's better than nothing. They start out with Dave Brown talking about Bill Dundee accepting a position at WCW as some type of executive. I don't know how much true that was or not, but I do remember that he was with Lord Steven Regal in the Blue Bloods, if you remember that angle. Not an all-time classic or anything, but hey, Bill got a payday out of it. Bill Dundee said he wanted to be booked on every show for the USWA for the week so he could say goodbye to the fans. We next had Mean Mike Miller versus Bill Dundee. This wasn't actually bad, to be honest. Mike Miller a ton of offense, and I guess because Bill Dundee was going and they said heck with it, might as well give Miller something to work with. So he got a lot of punches in, looked pretty decent, to be honest. The crowd was into it, and the big story here was that his face was all messed up. He had bandages and cuts and bruises, and it looked like he was in a car wreck, and he probably was. But they explained that they would go into it later in the show. Mike Samples and the Master of Terror ran in, and they got the DQ win for Bill Dundee. Yeah. After the match, Bill Dundee took quite the whooping. He got pile drivered onto the floor 3 different times. They didn't show the first 2 landings at all. They cut away to the crowd, which is something you'd see off Saturday Morning Slam. And I have no idea why they did this, as I've seen blood, fire, and pretty much everything else on Memphis TV. So since it was a weapons battle royal, it's kind of hard to say, oh, well, Mike Samples used a chain, and that's not fair, while Jerry Lawler admitted to bringing in a trash can and nailing him with it. So, I don't know, I didn't really get that one, but I think the idea was there. I showed some clips of it, and the Christmas Creature made an appearance. For those who don't remember, the Christmas Creature was Kane, and not one of his better gimmicks, and overall, definitely a wrestle crap-worthy gimmick. And, they showed the footage, and Jerry Lawler got dropped. And then Mike Miller came in out of nowhere and threw a chair at Lawler's head. It was a pretty good shot, too, and it looked like it nailed him hard. Tons of people came in and ended it as they finished their brawl. Dave Brown came back, and he talked more about the situation. He explained that Miller showed up at some party that he wasn't supposed to be at, and Jerry Lawler got asked to tell him to leave, and they ended up getting into a fight. Miller then cut a good promo where he said basically, he's not the toughest guy, he's not the best guy, he's not a top 10 wrestler in the world, but he's going to get Lawler back, and he's going to make him pay and make his face look as bad as his does now. I liked the promo. It was pretty good. Miller showed good character here, and I can totally buy him as some redneck biker drunk guy. He looks like one. He looks like he's been in a few bars in his life, and I could totally buy it. They recapped some of the Brian Christopher versus Jeff Jarrett feud, and we went to a quick match with the Bounty Hunter versus Jeff Jarrett. Jarrett won in seconds with a jumping DDT, and the Bounty Hunter had on some really cheap-looking gear. They had a big segment with basically Brian Christopher trying to get a shot at Jeff Jarrett's Southern Heavyweight title and putting up all kinds of different stipulations on the line to make it happen. He had put up his manager, Zeke Rivers' hair before, and Zeke ended up getting shaved, and he tried to put up Mr. Clyde's hair, and Mr. Clyde was a total jobber and really nothing of importance here. And Jarrett wouldn't go for it because he said the only way he would take a title match with Christopher is if Christopher put up his hair. Eventually, after some arguing, they made a deal where Christopher would put up his hair the following week if Jarrett could beat Clyde this week. And the match would have Clyde's hair on the line, and Jarrett would get $2,000 if he won. We then went to the next segment, and it had Lawler and Eddie Marlin coming out, and Lawler talked about the situation from his point of view with Mike Miller. He basically said that Miller was super drunk at a party because he had been drinking, and he said Lawler said that Miller had the date wrong as this happened on the first of the year. He kind of went on a small rant about drinking, and he even mentioned Coke, since Jerry Lawler is a huge collector of Coca-Cola memorabilia. Lawler claimed that he was asked nicely to get Miller to be quiet and go away, and Miller wouldn't, and since he was drunk, he was all angry and drunk and stuff, and he went after him. And Lawler claimed that he was able to beat up Miller really easy because he was drunk and wasn't in balance or anything. But Lawler then cut a promo saying that he could beat Miller drunk or sober. I thought it was a pretty decent promo. His drunk rant was kind of weird, but aside from that, it was pretty good. It was neat to see, some story from two different viewpoints, and it just added more to it. Gave us kind of a reason to care and kind of told us more, since we didn't see this party or whatever had happened. We just saw the after. After the Jerry Lawler promo, Mike Samples and Leslie Bellinger came out. I don't know anything about Bellinger. I can't really find anything either, so I guess she wasn't really that important in the shape of things. This whole thing is all about a long storyline they had going on at the end of 1992. Burt Prentice was a manager in the USWA, and Mike Samples was one of his partners. They had accused Miss Jacqueline of WWE and TNA of being a man who was a truck driver named Bubba Johnson. They claimed she had some kind of sex change or whatever, and that's how she became Miss Texas, which was her name in USWA. It was pretty ridiculous and wrestle crap, but it was kind of funny, and it even had a Sapphire appearance, if you remember her from the WWF. So maybe we'll go into that down the line. Anyway, Samples said he would expose Miss Texas for being a man. And he also talked about his upcoming boxing match with Jerry Lawler that would happen this week. We had the Harris brothers out for a quick squash. They destroyed their opponents, one with a power bomb, and the Moondogs ended up coming out because the fight wouldn't stop. They hit them with chairs, and they brawled all around the ring as the crowd went absolutely nuts. It was really good. I like this. The Moondogs are totally gold in the USWA. The crowd just loves them, and their brand of violence and just hitting people with stuff goes over really well. Richard Lee then cut a promo, but the crowd was so into it that it was actually impossible to hear what he said. But one thing he said was that the Harris brothers basically stole their belts, and they were coming to get revenge because they were quite mad. We went to a commercial and came back with Eddie Marlin being interviewed. He said he was told not to hit a lady as he grew up, but he didn't think Leslie Bellinger was acting like a lady. And he said that he would rip her hair out and spank her, so it's not really much better. I think I'd rather take the fist, to be honest. The Masters of Terror were scheduled for a match, and Bill Dundee and Danny Davis ended up nailing them, and they had a big brawl to close the show. The problem with this, though, was that Bill Dundee had already taken 3 pile drivers on the floor earlier, and it didn't seem to matter. He put on a neck brace and just went at him, like nothing had happened. I hated that. I don't know. I really like selling, and I just thought they wasted a good angle here. I kind of bought into it, but now it's like he should have hit him with 15 pile drivers. It wouldn't have made a difference. But that was the brawl to end the show, and Eddie Marlin came out to stop things. Overall thoughts, this was a pretty good show. There was some good promo action, the crowd was pretty hot, and, some people really stepped up. Mike Miller had a really great performance, and probably the best thing he ever did in his career. Jerry Lawler was good as always, and the Moondogs were wild, vicious, and crazy, and that's the way I like them. I hated the Dundee thing, and I also thought that they could have used more wrestling. There was very little wrestling here in a 1-hour show, or at least the hour I got of it. So that disappointed me. But overall, I'd recommend this and say check it out. If you want to see some pictures and gifs from the show and read more of my commentary and quotes from the different wrestlers, check it out at www.ProWresBlog.blogspot.com. Thank you again.